before the break, this was the scene inside Wintrust Arena after Natasha Cloud got that bucket. She wanted her...
Well, that Enes Kanter Freedom was not just going to go quietly into the night after he got thrown out of the game against the Chicago Sky when Natasha Cloud went after the former NBA player and made a spectacle out of herself. So he is now sending a letter to...
The WNBA is currently sitting on the edge of an absolute legal and public relations nuclear warhead, and Commissioner Cathy Engelbert might have just walked directly into the biggest trap in the history of women's professional sports. What started as an explosive, high-decibel courtside confrontation at Wintrust Arena between Chicago Sky guard Natasha Cloud and former NBA center Enes Kanter Freedom has officially metastasized into a catastrophic legal showdown that could tear the lid off the league's entire corporate infrastructure. If you thought Enes Kanter Freedom was just going to pack his bags, complain on social media for 24 hours, and quietly fade away into the background, you clearly do not know who this man is. This is someone who literally took on authoritarian regimes across the globe, stood toe-to-toe with geopolitical powerhouses, and sacrificed an entire NBA career for his public principles. Did Cathy Engelbert and the Chicago Sky ownership really believe they could eject a high-profile courtside patron without facing a devastating counterpunch? Well, that counterpunch has officially landed, and it arrived in the form of a blistering, 5-point formal legal demand letter delivered straight to the desk of Commissioner Cathy Engelbert. We are talking about demanded refunds, accusations of discriminatory targeted ejection, demands for disciplinary action against players, and most dangerously for the league office, an explicit mandate to preserve all internal video footage, incident reports, text messages, and private league communications. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not just a disgruntled fan asking for an apology. This is the unmistakable, calculated opening salvo of a full-blown federal lawsuit. And if this dispute crosses the threshold into formal civil litigation, if Enes Kanter Freedom forces the WNBA and the NBA into the dreaded discovery phase, we are looking at an unprecedented leak of internal emails, executive text chains, and backroom discussions that could permanently shatter the credibility of WNBA leadership. Today on WNBA Flow, we are breaking down every single angle of this escalating disaster. We have the exact breakdown of the 5 explosive questions Engelbert is now legally cornered into answering, the shocking double standards exposing the league's disciplinary hypocrisy, and why the phantom of the John Gruden email scandal is sending absolute panic through the front offices in New York and Chicago. Let's get right into the tape.
Alyssa Thomas put her fist in Caitlin Clark's throat. And I said then, okay, they better hammer Alyssa Thomas or the government's going to get involved. Guess what? They gave Alyssa Thomas a 1-game suspension. The government got involved. Pretty quickly, actually.
To truly comprehend why this legal demand letter carries so much destructive power, you have to look at the atmosphere of simmering frustration and selective enforcement that has plagued the WNBA throughout this entire season. For months, fans, analysts, and independent commentators have pointed out that the league operates under a bizarre, two-tiered system of justice, where certain players and behaviors receive total institutional immunity, while external critics and specific high-profile figures are subjected to immediate retribution. Look no further than what transpired on the hardwood earlier this year, when Connecticut Sun forward Alyssa Thomas literally drove her fist and forearm directly into the throat and neck of Caitlin Clark in a terrifyingly reckless physical takedown. The entire sports world stood back in absolute disbelief. That was a play that bordered on criminal assault in any standard workplace environment. Basketball purists and mainstream sports fans universally expected the league office to drop the hammer with a multi-game, zero-tolerance suspension to protect their marquee superstar and establish firm boundaries of professionalism. And what did Cathy Engelbert and the WNBA disciplinary board do? They issued a pathetic, meaningless one-game suspension that was treated as nothing more than a minor administrative inconvenience. The message from the league headquarters was unmistakable: physical hostility, reckless endangerment of generational talent, and blatant, unsportsmanlike conduct on the floor will be swept under the rug with minimal consequence, provided the offender fits the internal cultural protection of the league's established hierarchy. Yet, contrast that extreme leniency on the court with the hyper-aggressive, instantaneous reaction of arena security and team management when Enes Kanter Freedom sat courtside at Wintrust Arena. Here was a paying spectator, sitting in high-priced courtside seats, who was suddenly targeted, confronted verbally by Natasha Cloud, and summarily booted from the building without a shred of due process or standardized justification. The sheer disparity between how the league polices dangerous physical assaults between athletes versus how it handles non-violent spectators with dissenting perspectives is the central pillar of why this controversy is exploding.
Matrix and Roadshow channel, go subscribe. Natasha Cloud unleashes unhinged rant against Christians. An obscenity-laced rant against Christians. The WNBA won't do a freaking thing about this. They won't. But the Chicago Sky owner, by the way, Natasha Cloud plays for the Chicago Sky, will go out there and ban Enes Kanter Freedom.
Let us dissect the actual sequence of events that triggered this disaster in Chicago. Natasha Cloud, who has built a reputation across the league for being one of the most outspoken, unfiltered, and politically aggressive personalities in modern sports, engaged in what eyewitnesses described as an unhinged, profanity-laced verbal confrontation directed toward courtside spectators. Instead of de-escalating the situation, instead of focusing on the game plan, Cloud decided to make a total public spectacle of herself on the sideline. Now, in any professional sports entity governed by basic operational standards, whether you are talking about the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, or the Premier League, a player engaging in hostile, obscenity-filled verbal altercations with ticket-holding fans is an immediate violation of the player code of conduct. It results in technical fouls, ejections, mandatory league fines, and official public reprimands. But under the current leadership of the Chicago Sky and the WNBA front office, normal rules simply cease to apply. Instead of benching Cloud or reminding her of her contractual obligations as a professional athlete, Chicago Sky ownership and arena management took the extraordinary step of turning their wrath entirely onto Enes Kanter Freedom. They orchestrated his immediate removal, subjected him to public humiliation in front of tens of thousands of viewers, and enacted an arena ban. Meanwhile, Natasha Cloud faced zero accountability, zero fines, and zero disciplinary scrutiny from Cathy Engelbert. This blatant display of organizational favoritism brings up a massive issue that the mainstream sports media is terrified to touch: the alienation of the league's exploding mainstream fan base. Over the past year, the massive influx of viewers tuning in to watch generational sensations like Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham has fundamentally altered the demographic makeup of WNBA viewership. Millions of everyday families, working-class Americans, and traditional sports enthusiasts have poured their hard-earned dollars into tickets, merchandise, and television ratings. When team management openly protects unhinged player rants while punishing patrons who do not conform to the team's narrow, ideological agenda, they are actively sabotaging their own commercial growth. The hypocrisy is staggering. And Enes Kanter Freedom saw this vulnerability from a mile away, which brings us directly to the 5 explosive legal demands that have now backed Cathy Engelbert into a corner with no easy escape.
This is the breakdown of the 5 questions that Enes Kanter Freedom is wanting answered from WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert. Number 1, identify the policy, rule, directive, or instruction relied upon in treating certain spectators, including me, differently when we express a viewpoint that appears unpopular with the WNBA. I think we all know he got booted out because of his political and social affiliations. I think it's safe to say that. I would venture to say...
Let us go step by step through the formal legal document that was sent directly to Cathy Engelbert, because this is where the rubber meets the road. This letter was carefully drafted by seasoned legal counsel who understand the exact mechanics of civil litigation, premises liability, consumer protection, and constitutional rights. Freedom's legal team did not send a vague complaint. They issued a formal, binding interrogatory designed to lock the WNBA into on-the-record statements that can be used in a court of law. Demand number 1. The letter demands that the WNBA immediately identify the exact policy, rule, directive, or written instruction relied upon to treat certain spectators differently based on expressed viewpoints that appear unpopular with the league. This is a brilliant legal trap. If the league claims there is a written rule, they must produce it, and if that rule specifically targets non-disruptive political or social expression, it opens them up to massive civil rights and discrimination claims. If no such written rule exists, then the ejection was an arbitrary, retaliatory act carried out without legal basis. Demand number 2. The letter demands full identification of who made the decision to execute the ejection. Was it requested by WNBA league personnel? Did it come directly from Chicago Sky ownership? Was it ordered by Wintrust Arena operational staff, private security contractors, or an independent third party? This question is vital because Wintrust Arena is a publicly funded, taxpayer-supported municipal venue. If a government-funded entity colluded with a private sports franchise to silence or eject a citizen without cause, you are suddenly looking at serious constitutional violations regarding public accommodation and free assembly. Demand number 3. The letter calls on the league to confirm whether Natasha Cloud's conduct is being reviewed under league policies governing player-fan interactions and physical/verbal altercations. Freedom is demanding to know what accountability, if any, Cloud, her coaching staff, and Chicago Sky management will face for inciting the confrontation. Demand number 4. A direct, unambiguous demand for a 100% full financial refund of the courtside tickets. Make no mistake, courtside seating at marquee WNBA games in 2026 runs into thousands of dollars. By demanding an immediate financial refund, Freedom establishes quantifiable economic damages under commercial transaction law. And finally, demand number 5. The single most dangerous clause in the entire document, the formal legal demand to preserve all evidence. This includes all surveillance video footage from every camera angle inside Wintrust Arena, all official incident and security reports, and every single written communication, email, text message, and memo referencing Freedom's attendance, his public advocacy, and the decision to remove him.
Full refund of the cost of my courtside tickets, which were not cheap. Let's point that out. Preserve all materials related to this incident, including relevant video footage, incident or security reports, communications concerning my attendance or removal, communications referring to my WNBA announcements or public advocacy for women's sports, and any applicable policies or event directives. Uh-oh. Now he's requesting.
When a legal team issues a formal preservation of evidence notice, often called a spoliation warning, or litigation hold, in the legal world, it means the countdown clock to a lawsuit has officially started. From the exact second Cathy Engelbert received that letter, the WNBA and the Chicago Sky are legally prohibited from deleting, altering, or shredding a single text message, internal Slack chat, email thread, or security recording related to this incident. If anyone inside the league office or the Chicago Sky organization hits the delete button on an embarrassing text exchange or tries to cover up a panic-filled phone call, they can be hit with severe court sanctions for spoliation of evidence, which can lead to automatic default judgments and punitive damages. Think about what this means for Commissioner Cathy Engelbert. She is caught in a complete strategic vice. If she chooses to ignore the letter, Freedom's attorneys will file a formal civil lawsuit in federal court within days. If she responds and attempts to defend the ejection, every word she writes will be picked apart under deposition oath. And if she tries to quietly settle by cutting a check and refunding the tickets, it serves as a tacit admission that the Chicago Sky and arena security acted improperly, opening the floodgates for widespread public backlash against the league's operational incompetence. Cathy Engelbert has spent her entire tenure trying to play both sides, pandering to internal activist factions within the players' union while trying to project corporate professionalism to corporate sponsors and mainstream broadcast networks. But you cannot ride the fence when a seasoned legal team puts a formal interrogatory on your desk. And the danger facing the WNBA goes far beyond a single refunded ticket or an embarrassing press release. The true nightmare scenario for the league is what happens when this case enters the discovery phase.
Oh, here we go. This is what everybody starts getting nervous about it. Let's go a little John Gruden. A little John Gruden action. When they pull the company and league-wide emails of every coach, front office member, owner, when they pull all of those emails, what's going to have been discussed, not to mention all the other... Remember something, John Gruden, the things that he...
Every sports executive in America knows the terrifying cautionary tale of John Gruden. Back in 2021, the former NFL head coach was completely erased from the league, not because of an investigation into him, but because of a massive discovery dump of internal corporate emails during an entirely separate legal proceeding against the Washington football franchise. Tens of thousands of private, unvarnished, behind-the-scenes emails were subpoenaed, reviewed, and eventually leaked to major media outlets like the New York Times, exposing decades of toxic internal culture, derogatory language, and backroom collusion. Now, imagine that exact same legal mechanism applied to the WNBA and NBA corporate servers. If Enes Kanter Freedom's lawsuit proceeds to formal discovery, his attorneys will have the subpoena power to demand every single email, text message, and internal memo sent across the WNBA league offices, team ownership groups, head coaches, and front office executives over the past 2 years. Think about what exists inside those private communications. How many unvarnished, unprofessional emails have been exchanged between league executives regarding Caitlin Clark? How many private text messages between front office staff and coaches show open resentment, jealousy, and coordination against the very players who are driving 90% of the league's revenue? What kinds of interpersonal conflicts, backroom political maneuvering, and discussions about officiating directives have been traded back and forth on official league devices? If those subpoenaed communications are unsealed in a federal courtroom, it will not just be a public relations crisis. It will be a Category 5 corporate extinction-level event for the current leadership group. We are talking about potential congressional inquiries, massive sponsor pullouts, and the inevitable forced resignation of top executives, including Commissioner Cathy Engelbert herself. The WNBA leadership believed they were operating in a closed ecosystem where they could silence critics, discipline spectators on a whim, and govern through selective favoritism without ever having to answer to the law. But the rules of civil procedure do not bend for sports commissioners. By treating Wintrust Arena like a private fiefdom and escalating a personal feud with a high-profile activist athlete, the Chicago Sky and Cathy Engelbert have opened Pandora's box. This is no longer just about basketball. This is about corporate governance, constitutional liberties in public arenas, and the catastrophic consequences of unchecked institutional arrogance. Cathy Engelbert is on the clock, and every single move she makes from this moment forward will determine whether the WNBA survives this crisis or plunges into an unprecedented legal inferno. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications, and drop your thoughts down in the comments below. Do you think Enes Kanter Freedom is going to take the WNBA to federal court? And what do you think will be revealed if those private league emails get leaked? Let us know, and we will see you on the next breakdown right here on WNBA Flow.